I therefore stand before you today not to celebrate mediocre efforts, but to enforce institutional alignment with His Excellency President Dr. Emerson Mnangagwa's operational directive, the call to action blueprint, with no compromise to service delivery. Saka patinomira muroad tichitenga mashanje nechibage nemangu will be compromising service delivery. That's what the call to action says. The independent evaluation is to be tabled today by best practices reflect a clear mirror of your performances during the year 2025 cycle. While a few councils are showing positive signs of progress and trajectory, many are still battling with mediocre life. Many are still lagging behind, trapped in cycles of poor resource management and administrative complacency. That era, like what Chief Secretary said and Dr. Basera said, is officially come to an end. Today must be the end of that era. We must all now focus on service delivery and service delivery, nothing else. Our strategic national goals, therefore, towards Vision 2030 require standardized, high-quality public environments. We will no longer tolerate a situation where a resident in one town enjoys clean water, while a resident in a neighboring district faces a cholera outbreak due to broken down sewer systems. That is no longer acceptable. The Budiriro disaster is a case in point. It is very regrettable. That was a case of high negligence of duty by the local authority. It must never be repeated again. To bridge this gap, Chief Secretary said, the Ministry gazetted Statutory Instrument 170 of 2025, the Minimum Service Delivery Standards Indicators for Local Authorities Regulations. This law outlines the non-negotiable baselines across essential sectors, and this includes water supply and sanitation. Piped water coverage must reach 90% in urban areas by next year, ensuring a minimum per capita daily delivery of 50 to 100 liters of clean water. Infrastructure. Roads must meet a minimum visual condition index VCI of 55%. With trafficable surfaces, functional drainage, and standardized Southern Africa Transport and Communications Commission markings. Solid waste management and public lighting. Councils must guarantee consistent refuse collection and functional public lighting across all developed residential spaces, to mention just a few of the 8 service categories. These are no longer suggestions, they are the legal baselines upon which your councils will survive or fail. The structural decay in service delivery is directly tied to financial greed and misplaced priorities within your institutions. Far too many local authorities are spending the bulk of their collected rates on exorbitant salaries, endless workshops, and luxurious administrative perks, while water treatment plants, sewage plants collapse and roads develop from potholes to drum walls. That must come to an end. To arrest this misconduct, we gazetted Statutory Instrument 69 of 2026. This critical law legally mandates a strict 70-30 expenditure ratio. 70% of all revenue collected must be dedicated directly to capital projects and essential service delivery. No more than 30% may be consumed by employee remuneration and administration overheads. Any council budget that does not reflect this balance or fails to maintain an accrual-based IPSAS compliant accounting model will not receive ministry support and approval. Going forward, the ministry is deploying a robust, job-prompt framework of rewards and consequences to keep all 92 local authorities rigidly focused on their core duties. And in terms of the Statutory Instrument 69 of 2026, the ministry will relentlessly, ruthlessly, and brutally penalize non-compliant and non-performing officials. Let me take that again. In terms of the powers of the statutory instrument 69 of 2026, the ministry will relentlessly, ruthlessly, and brutally penalize non-compliant and non-performing officials. Sanctions will match the gravity of the failures and will include official written warnings for initial failures to meet minimum service delivery standard baseline, suspension of all local and international travel and workshops for management and councillors. Circular to this effect has already been sent out. The downgrading of council status for perennially failing municipalities. Recommended dismissal and suspension of town clerks, chief executive officers and mayors who prioritize salaries over services. I can take that again. Recommended dismissal and suspension of town clerks, chief executive officers, mayors who prioritize salaries over service delivery. Please take it. We will also ruthlessly deal with councils abusing estate funds. We are not going to compromise on disciplinary issues to councils that are abusing estate funds. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we recognize that performance requires competence. The ministry will actively direct targeted training workshops across all provinces to help your teams implement double entry commercial accounting, establish valid valuation roles, master spatial town planning, and execute effective human capital audits and implement integrated results-based management. Furthermore, the ministry will accelerate the re-establishment of the local government institute to address the skills development gaps that currently exist. To foster healthy competition among councils, excellent leadership will be celebrated, while we will run structured performance rewards at the provincial level, culminating in the national awards for the best performing mayor, council chairperson, and best performing town clerk and CEO, before it's escalated to best practice level. Excellency will be visible and failure will also be exposed. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, the 92 local authorities represented here are once again reminded that the honeymoon is now over. The tools have been provided, the laws have been gazetted, and the independent results from best practice will now be laid bare for everyone to see and implement. Let's go back to our workstations, cut down on unnecessary administrative costs, align our operations within the 70-30 rule, and give the citizens of Zimbabwe the service delivery they desire, they legally want, and they pay for in terms of rates. Let me give you some key takeaways, in case you don't know that takeaways are not only given in food outlets. Here are some takeaways for you. The rampant illegal sale of state land and council land will attract criminal action against us, perpetrators. No to illegal sale of council land and state land. No to participation in land baron activities. Land barons have caused pain and suffering to innocent people in the country. And no to Sabhuku Deals. The 60 rural district councils who are here represented by chairpersons and CEOs. No and no and no to Sabhuku Deals. Please go and tell the village heads that Sabhuku Deals are punishable by jail. They will be jailed. And I am very serious. We've been cleared to deal with Sabhuku Deals. We've been cleared to deal with all illegal settlements. The Permanent Secretary, Dr. Basera, spoke passionately about the regularization. We are only going to pay attention to regularization of settlements that government created. Settlements such as Caledonia and Harare South. Those that are selling land illegally and creating informal settlements, hoping that government will regularize, will instead come and demolish. And everybody knows where he came from or she came from. We have no appetite to regularize settlements that are born out of criminal activities. So please take heed and go and explain to everybody that any informal settlement born out of a criminal transaction, the houses being built there will be demolished without any apology to anybody. If you are to achieve an upper middle income economy status by year 2030, as pronounced by His Excellency in his Vision 2030 program, we must be ruthless to ourselves in terms of discipline, in terms of doing that which is right. Let's keep our cities clean, no to throwing of litter everywhere. Local authorities, you are the drivers of Vision 2030. We cannot hope to go to an upper middle income society status by throwing maize cobs and paper everywhere. Let's keep our environment clean. Beautification must be a priority. As we prioritize all other service delivery, we must ensure that the visitors that are visiting our beautiful country, the visitors that are visiting our beautiful cities and towns and RDCs must be received by clean streets, not by litter. We are now being defined by the amount of garbage that are in our street corners. It's not acceptable. Let's go and clean our cities. We all have refuse collection vehicles. There is nothing that stops us from doing that. We have been provided with fire tenders. It is disheartening that people drive fire tenders to go and extinguish a fire with a fire tender without water. That's serious negligence of duty. And we must ensure that at any given time, our fire tenders are filled up with water. In the likely event of any disaster, they must come to duty with water. And let me also say, we must now say no to roadside selling of perishable products. No to boot sales, beer boot sales. We must never be defined by people that must not define us. But this is what is defining Harare, this is what is defining Bulawayo, and this is what is defining Mutare, which means this is what is defining Zimbabwe. And you know what I mean by defining Zimbabwe. We are redefining our president, who is saying no to compromise on service delivery. We are saying to him, no, we must have compromise to service delivery. The answer is no. So please take these takeaways very seriously. They are going to come to you as a secular. At the beginning of this year, at Performance Awards, the president highlighted that the weak links in performance, government performance, are local authorities. Which means the weak link is the Minister of Local Government and Public Works and his team. I have no desired appetite to be defined as a weak link. Because I don't want to be defined as a weak link, I have requested to get a whip and use the whip and use it effectively. Help me not to use that whip by doing that which is right, service delivery. I thank you.